Welcome back, my gentle people. This is Corner Stories, and today we have some cheating stories. So let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy. My wife is cold and distant towards me since I helped an ex during a bad time. I, M35, was in a long-term relationship with a woman, F33, between the ages I was 20 to 30 until she left for a job in another state. Later she told me LDR didn't work, so we broke up and I found out that she was engaged. I met my wife, F30, a year later, and I honestly don't think I ever knew what love is before I met her. Everything was different with her, and love was so easy and not an uphill battle all the time like I in hindsight realized my former relationship was. I am not trying to bash my ex or our relationship. We grew up together and we learned a lot, but sometimes you hate something that turns out to be a good thing, and this for me was the ending of my relationship. I was very sad and devastated, but looking back I am happy it happened, or I wouldn't known what true love or happiness is. At the same time I met my wife, my ex moved back and she said that she regretted ending things and that we loved each other. I wasn't in love with her anymore and I turned her down. She is still a good friend and I like her as a friend. She is, however, my sister's best friend. My wife knows her and she has never been threatened by her because we have always had a solid relationship. My ex's mom unfortunately passed away suddenly and she has been inconsolable and broken since. I cannot even imagine the pain. My sister is devastated too and she has been by her side. I have too been supportive and it felt very appropriated. My sister encouraged me to be there and support our friend. My wife didn't mind in the beginning, but I felt that she started being uncomfortable that I went on walks and hikes with my ex, but it was doing her good to keep her mind off things, and I found my wife's coldness uncalled for. I never experienced her as cold-hearted or callous, but here we are. She just didn't like the mention of my ex, so I didn't mention her either. Then a week after New Year my sister planned a week vacation for her and her husband, my ex, me and another couple that my sister and ex are friends with. My wife this time was very upset and said that she didn't want me to go. She asked why she wasn't invited then if it was just an innocent hangout. My sister said that it was ridiculous because we've been friends since HS, but my wife said that my sister never really liked her. I thought she was being unfair and ridiculous. However, she said that she didn't want me to be on that trip. After the trip my wife has been changed. She isn't rude or upset or sad, but she just doesn't engage with me. She doesn't start conversations. When I try to confront her she doesn't engage in arguments. I don't know what to do. She doesn't even think that something is changed. When I am going out, she doesn't even care if I was taking a hike with my ex and she didn't get bothered. Also, when my sister had her birthday my wife told me that morning that she was feeling sick and didn't want to risk infecting the others, and she just sent a text to my sister and a present with me. Now to what made the last straw. My ex is having her birthday party on Friday. Both me and my wife are invited. My wife just said sorry, can't do, I'm already booked for a work friend's 50+50 birthday. I asked her why I wasn't invited. She said that I was, but that she was taking her nephew so I didn't need to go with her, so I could go to my party instead. This is very out of character for my wife, who would have tried to make other solutions like dropping by one party first then the other, but she just didn't care. I asked her if she could come with me instead since her work colleague isn't a close friend, but she just dismissed me and laughed mirthfully, calling me ridiculous. And that is all we have of this story. I truly think the wife has checked out of that crap marriage, and you know what, good for her. Now all she needs to do is hand over the divorce papers, and I am sure that idiot husband will look dumbstruck because it came out of nowhere. What do you think? Do you see what I see, or is there hope? Let me know in the comments. Now on to story 2. AITA for breaking up with my girlfriend because she went to a sex club? A bit of context: me and my GF, both mid-20s, have been living together for almost 3 years and never had a problem like this before. One day, she decided to go and visit a friend of hers in another country and planned to stay there for a week. I was more than happy because she would have had a great time abroad with her friend and I would have passed some time by myself. It happens rarely. Then she mentioned their intention to go to a famous sex club in a specific event, Kinky BDSM ECC, known for its open-minded approach and extreme sexual activities. There is a strict dress code, minimal to no clothing, the less you wear, the better, and for obvious reasons they take your phone at the entrance and you can have it back when you walk out. Of course, I was really uncomfortable with the idea, and in the following days we talked a lot about it. She told me she was curious and wanted to see the vibe. Disclaimer: I have literally zero problems with sex clubs and people who enjoy participating. I know that there is an entire culture around that, and people are generally very respectful with boundaries and consent. I explained exactly what was making me anxious about her going. the idea of her being half naked in a small place full of people who are there to dance, to fuck or most probably both, with lots of drugs and alcohol involved and in a very specific night. I was also worried that something unpleasant could happen. Even tough, I think it is not that common in this events. As I mentioned earlier, people can sometimes be very insistent and inappropriate, especially when horny, on drugs and in a place where sex is somehow implicit and free. Someone could be disrespectful and cross your boundaries, and she wouldn't even had her phone with her. I was genuinely worried for her safety and didn't want something bad to happen to her. From now on she was quite ambiguous with her communication, because initially she agreed in saying that my concernings were legitimate, completely understandable and acceptable, but soon started to invalidate my feelings and call me an insecure boyfriend, toxic, and that I should manage my emotions because they were not her problem, basically. We talked a lot and she tried to prove the point that my fear was actually that she could have sex with someone that night and cheat, and that basically meant that I have a bad idea of her and don't trust her. I tried to explain that I was not worried about that, but at the same time I admitted that, to some extent, I could feel that kind of irrational fear, but I feel I have enough self-awareness to recognize when my behavior is being influenced by it or not, and this was not the case. I trusted her, I just was not comfortable with the idea of her being there. I never asked her not to go because I'm not that kind of boyfriend and I value freedom and personal space in a relationship, but deep inside I wished her to value my feelings, limits, and boundaries, which seemed completely acceptable to me, more than her curiosity to see the vibe at the sex club. Long story short, she went anyways and sent me a message the next morning telling me that she had fun and nothing bad happened. It was a relief to know that, but I was also very upset that she didn't respect my feelings and boundaries, went anyways and treated me poorly and said, "You are basically saying that I am a whore," when I literally never did nor implicated in any way. The morning after the club, I didn't reply for a few hours and then told her to wait until she was back home to talk about the situation in person. She didn't accept to take some time and I broke up with her. And that is the end of story 2 and that ill-fated relationship. Next up, story 3. Fuck with my job and I'll fuck with your marriage. I already know I'm the asshole for this, but this is what happened. My manager is an Indian woman and was constantly making passive-aggressive comments about my ethnicity, Afghan. I've worked at Subway for around 6 months and neither did I or any of my coworkers get along with her. She was the biggest micromanager I've ever met and would make up random rules, then would yell at us in front of the customers if we made a mistake. I know she made up these rules because when I would follow them, the owner of the store would question what I was doing and tell me I'm not supposed to do that. She would also make racist remarks about me and my co-workers. My friend was explaining how she had to slaughter a goat for her religion, then she laughed in her face and said, "That's disgusting." And on my first day I told her I was from Afghanistan. She said, "You're a fake Afghan, you look Chinese." A couple months fast forwarded and I had to work in the morning with just her. I was at the front taking care of orders when there was a huge rush of people. She was in the back eating food when she wasn't even on break. So as I'm taking care of all these orders, I like to frequently change my gloves after handling pork to accommodate any religious beliefs. These gloves would pile up and yeah, there were some crumbs on the table. However, when the rush was done, she then decided to come out and started scolding me for making a mess. I explained to her that there was a rush and I didn't have time to start cleaning in the middle of orders. She still insisted that I could have took out the trash and wiped the counters when there was a line of people waiting. Then started pointing out everything I did wrong, following with a, "You're like a baby, you don't know how to do anything." I was so done with her, so I left right then and there. I told my friend what happened. She also worked with me, and we decided to make a fake Instagram account to catfish her husband. Yes, I know this was wrong, but we were bored petty teenagers. His Instagram was pretty easy to find, so we messaged him. He instantly responded back and kept flirting with us, wanting to meet up the next day. We sent the screenshot to our manager, but she blocked us, so I guess she wanted to stay Delulu. This was a short story and a petty one. Gotta love teenage antics. But now let's move on to the story. Next up, story 4. I cheated on my wife who cheated on me 5 years ago. My wife, 30F, and I, 32M, have been married for 3 years, and have been in a relationship for 8 years. 5 years ago, my wife, then girlfriend, confessed she hooked up with a random man who she met at the bar. She immediately confessed the next day. I was horribly hurt. It was a traumatic experience for me because I really loved her. It was extremely humiliating and I texted no one about this except my ex, because at that moment, I really felt like I was drowning. However, my girlfriend showed genuine signs of remorse. She promised she would do everything to win my heart back. She gave me access to her phone, she gave up drinking and became sober. She also joined therapy to understand what led her to cheating on me. She also told me I could cheat on her one time and even the score, but I just wasn't that type of guy, and would never even consider doing it to hurt her back. I hated the concept of revenge, and also I still loved my girlfriend, even though she cheated on me. It looked like my girlfriend was deeply hurt too, but she did everything in her power to win me back. And to her credit, I slowly but surely fell in love with her again. It took a lot of months of hard work, but she worked extremely hard to show how much she loved me. We married a year later after, and our relationship just blossomed after marriage. Now fast forward to last week, when my ex texted me that she found out her husband had cheated on her, and if we could meet up to have dinner, because she was going through an extremely difficult time. I asked my wife if I could do it, and she told me to go ahead. I also had a handcrafted bracelet for my relationship with my ex, and I asked my wife if I could take that bracelet and give it to my ex. She agreed. Well, I met up with my ex for dinner. It was extremely emotional and she seemed really devastated. It reminded me too when I was cheated on many years ago. She was crying a lot, and to brighten up the mood, I showed her the bracelet from our earlier relationship. That actually brightened up her mood a bit, and we laughed and had a nice dinner after that. She invited me to her room after dinner. I was a bit hesitant, but agreed. But unfortunately, things happened, we got carried away, and we had sex. I immediately confessed to my wife after coming back home. She was extremely hurt, but she forgave me immediately, and told me she deserved this because of what she did 5 years ago. I told her, no, she didn't, and I was completely at fault, and I had no excuses for this. I'm taking active steps to understand why exactly I did this. It's been a week, and I think we're mostly back to normal, but she sometimes just cries on my shoulder. My wife forgave me, and tells me I am not in the wrong at all for doing it. That is the end of this story. It just left me feeling ick, so why don't we just move on now? Story 5. I messed up and I ruined my marriage. I'm not looking for pity or understanding here. I know I'm not getting it. Me and my ex-wife have a 14-month-old son. After he was born, our marriage fell apart. She said I wasn't pulling my weight with childcare and chores, but at the same time she expected me to know what to do without her telling me. It was bad. We argued a lot and I ended up telling her that her life would be harder without me. She got really quiet and I thought that was the end of the argument. It made things fall apart and we are getting divorced. We're living separately, each got a new apartment. As for our son, the law in our state is that 50-50 is the default for custody. It is automatic unless one parent proves neglect on the part of the other. We don't have that, so on the advice of both our lawyers we are splitting time and doing alternating weeks since we separated. We usually switch on Mondays with the daycare pickup and drop off. I knew being a single parent wasn't easy, but I didn't really know until now. This is where I realize how badly I fucked up because I'm drowning. The weeks I have my son I don't get anything done and I can barely even function at work because I'm so exhausted. I spend the whole week I don't have him catching up and I can't even get everything done. My apartment is a mess and I can hardly keep up with errands and chores. It sucks. I realize I fucked up because I thought since I was having a hard time my wife would be too and we could call off the divorce and work on things. But she doesn't want to. She says her life is easier without me and she is the opposite of me and can apparently keep up everything fine. She says she isn't exhausted anymore and realized it's easier having one person to take care of instead of two. I know I messed up and should have been a better husband. I can't even ask for less time with my son because I can't afford the child support. Right now neither of us has any because of 50-50 and equal income, but if we go off 50-50 my lawyer says the person with less time will get child support. I hate myself for fucking up so much. Obviously this is a throwaway. Next up is the final story of the video. Obsessive ex-girlfriend stalks me constantly after I broke up with her. She tries to do things to me to show me that she wasn't getting over me, so I blocked her number. Time of incident, April 2, 2016, 2:30 p.m. Still dating current girlfriend, March 24, 2024. 8 years since the incident happened. I had been dating my former girlfriend on and off for years since living in Iowa. I never had an issue with her until I broke up with her after catching her texting another dude. I told her that I was not going to put up with the lies and deception anymore and told her that either she got out of my house by herself or I would expel her from my house by force. She willingly leaves for fear of being kicked out of my house. I thought I had moved on from her by getting a new girlfriend, but my obsessive ex was stalking me from afar, watching me. She attacked my current girlfriend and then attacked me in the process. Once, I came out to find my car all scratched up. I realized that my ex was behind this. I called the police, but they told me that it wasn't an emergency. Then she called my phone off the chain, telling me that she wants back, even trying to come to back my house after she had been banned. I called the police again, and this time, the police arrested her and charged her with trespassing and assault, since she attacked me and my current girlfriend. I don't feel bad for what I did. You don't attack me and my girl and get away with it, especially when you had a chance to do right by me and screwed up. And that is the end of the story. That's it, guys. This is where I will leave you. I hope you enjoyed the stories I had for you. I certainly enjoyed them. Please be sure to drop a like or a comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I will see you. Corner Stories signing off.